alive! It's alive!
Otherworldlyculture.com presents Dead On Movie Reviews.
Go on, Pastor Jonathan.
Salutations and mutilations. You're listening to Otherworldly Culture presents Dead On Movie Reviews. Tonight, we will present horror movie reviews and lively debate here on Otherworldlyculture.com and on future select Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can join our live chat at that time by clicking on Live Shows link on the Otherworldlyculture.com website. I'm your host, Tim Kretschmann, coming to you from the land of lakes and landfills, beautiful Muskego, Wisconsin. It's my honor to introduce the Faculty of Fear panel who will be presenting tonight's lectures. Hailing from the Motor City, Detroit, Michael Cieslak is a lifetime reader and writer of horror, mystery, and speculative fiction. He has served as an officer in the Great Lakes Association of Horror Writers and is the editor of the Eerie Tales anthologies. Michael is the editor-in-chief of Dragon's Roost Press, and his works have appeared in a number of collections, including DOA, Extreme Horror, Dead Science, Vicious Verses, and Reanimated Rhymes, and the collaborative steampunk novel Army of Brass. He is a kilt enthusiast, and he's killing it over at the dragonsroost.net. Hello, Michael.
Hello there.
Glad you could join us today. Our next panelist, The Meat, is on his way. Ladies and gentlemen, he's America's little sweetheart, the killer clown of getting down, the speedy freak that loves to speak and streak. He is smoking a stogie and eating a hoagie, stalking the small and the wild, and pulling down the burlesque with a quest. He is the only and the lonely Rich Dalzatto.
Good evening.
Thank you, Rich. Now, Tracy DeLeon was scheduled to be on tonight. She had emergencies, so she will not be with us. But don't worry, we're bringing the heat tonight, so keep your ass into your seat, sharpen your pencil, and let's get unruly with the Faculty of Fear. And we're going to start things off. Michael, what have you been lucky enough to watch for this week's show?
Oh, we're making the assumption that it was good fortune, and well, we'll see when the final grade is posted.
Oh, okay.
Breaking with tradition, I decided to go with something.
Hold on, he's building suspense, everybody. Just so you know. All right, go ahead.
I decided to break with tradition and do something that Tim could actually find photographs for because it was made this year. Perhaps the most recent thing I've ever done. David Cronenberg's Crimes of the Future with Viggo Mortensen.
Wow.
And other players, including Kristen Stewart, who was right there with her little ears poking out.
Yep.
I am actually a Cronenberg fan. I'm going to preface the whole review by saying that I do like most of Cronenberg's movies that I've seen. There are quite a few that I haven't. We won't go into that.
Which is your favorite?
I'm probably going to respond with Long Live the New Flesh.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And this is definitely has that Cronenberg look to it. Okay. Like when you look at something in the Alien universe, it either does or it doesn't have that alien look to it. This, you've got all the gooiness, and you've got the... In fact, in the first 10 minutes, I had... Actually, the first 8 minutes, to be more specific, I had one moment where I went, damn! And another moment where frequent in a Cronenberg movie, I just went, "What the F is that?" Started out strong as far as I was concerned. Minor spoiler, but since it happens before the 5-minute mark, kid dies. Awesome. Kid gets murdered. Loved it. Okay, this is going to be a fun ride. There's no dog, so the dog's not going to die, and we got a murdered kid. Let's go. And then we had the Viggo Mortensen strapped into this weird...
had it coming. The kid probably had it coming.
There are some great lines right before the kid dies, too. He's digging in the sand right where the ocean meets the land.
Okay.
And he's just kind of like digging with a big, like a serving spoon, and he's just flipping the dirt over to one side. And we assume it's his mom. Steps out onto the balcony and says, "Don't eat anything you find. I don't care what it is." I'm like, okay, that's on brand. This is going to be weird. I like it. The kid, next scene, he's in the bathroom. He's sitting on the tile floor, starts eating the garbage can. Just a plastic garbage can, taking huge bites out of it.
Not the
chowing
stuff
down on the garbage can.
Not the stuff in the garbage can.
No,
just
the actual can itself. Like, takes a chomp out of the rim and is like, "Loop-da-dum-da-dum, this is yummy." And then he dies. His mom kills him. I'm like, okay. We see Viggo Mortensen attached to this weird, like, clamshell-looking thing, but it's got those weird, like, part bone, part extraterrestrial-looking things that you see in so many Cronenberg films. And you're like, this is weird. It is weird.
Yeah.
We've got people that are cutting each other in the streets.
Okay.
We soon learn that Viggo Mortensen is one half of a duo. They are his name is Saul in the film. They're performance artists, and he is growing new organs.
As you
and
do.
That was, as one does.
Right.
Just weird. Like, oh, the hormone balance is out. I'm growing a new organ. And they, like, stick a thing in him, and they're looking at it. And
now, does he have to water it every day?
No, because fortunately for him, it's all in his abdomen. Until
Yummy.
The performance of the evening, where the other half of his performance team uses what we later find out is a modified mortuary table, automated with lots of claws and flippers and things that come over, to cut the organ out in front of a live audience, as you do.
Yeah.
And then it stitches them back up.
So it sounds like this is just a standard week.
Yeah.
In the life of Cronenberg.
A normal trippy week for the director from the Great White North.
Yeah.
Some weird things that have happened. People have stopped feeling pain, except for a rare few who feel pain in their sleep. And bacterial infection has disappeared. So we have a lot of body modification. We have one of the big themes that's kind of pervade throughout this is the opening of the body as a way of revealing yourself to people and trusting people that way. At one point, the Kristen Stewart character actually says that surgery is the new sex.
How far in the future is this set? Like,
it doesn't specifically give
a
date, but everything looks fairly modernish. There isn't a whole lot of tech that's not like Cronenberg tech.
Right.
Like, we don't see any cars that are driving around. There are a lot of wrecks.
Okay.
On the seashore, there's like a turned over cruise ship, and there's a lot of rusted out buildings and factories, and we don't see anything moving around like airplanes or cars or anything, and no one's using cell phones. But there is all this weird stuff, like the chair the breakfast chair that you sit in that then moves you in different ways to help you digest your food properly. You've got the bed that he sleeps in, which kind of creates a thing where he feels like he's floating, so he doesn't feel the pain that he does feel when he sleeps. There's that mortuary table that they've souped up to turn into a that's what they use for their art exhibits.
Okay.
There's a lot of cutting, and there's some there's nudity, there's cutting, there's a lot of body modification. Surgeons that have made like gills on people, and there's one guy that has a body covered in ears. I'm actually surprised I haven't seen that come up as a still, because that was the one that I kept seeing in the previews. But after a while, it just started to feel like it was more, we're showing you weird stuff instead of having a substantive story.
It
There's
sounds
these
like the
themes
movie
that
Society.
run through it.
It sounds like the movie Society to me. There was like no story, but it had these incredible visuals.
But after a while, even that you kind of become adjusted to the visuals.
Okay.
It's like, okay, well, I saw, after you see an automated arm like go into Viggo Mortensen's stomach and rip out an organ that's already been tattooed while it was in his stomach, just having someone cut into another person's foot with a curved blade doesn't really do anything.
It desensitizes you.
Exactly. You've got these themes that are running through it with the whole openness that I talked about, and the sex and surgery, acceptance of body modification versus not accepting it, a lot of things about personal autonomy and control of the body. There's a group that believes that these people that are growing the new organs are actually evolving into a different type of creature. The government wants to clamp down on that because, we want the humans to be humans. We don't want people to start evolving into, like that kid did, be able to eat plastic. They both kind of embrace Saul, the Viggo Mortensen character, because he's very open about how his body produces these organs, but then at the same time he's taking them out and rejecting them, and he's not going along with this idea of evolution. It's a lot of undercurrents of betrayal and, who can you trust and who can you not trust? Can you trust the government? Who's working for the government? Who do you think is working for the government and that isn't working for the government? And they're all there, but they're not, nothing actually happens with them. Like, I wish he had picked one or maybe two, but just one of them and kind of had that be the focus. But when you've got all these various weird things that are that we could be focusing on, none of it really comes through. There's no real through line through it. The kid ends up being important again in the last 15, 20 minutes of the movie, but we saw him for 2 minutes in the very beginning, and then he's just alluded to a couple of times. Then it's like, oh, okay, well, now we see what, like, that, the whole thing with the kid's corpse should have been played through more, I feel.
Okay.
The idea of people trying to figure out which side of this divide they fall on. Is it important to stay a natural human, or is it, is evolving into something that works better in the new environment? Is that a good thing, or is that something that needs to be repressed? It reminded me of, there were bits of it that remind me of a lot of other films, including The Fly, Dead Ringers, Hellraiser, even the X-Men movies to some extent. Okay. And it doesn't do well by comparison. All of those had like one topic that they looked at, and they played it through better than this one did.
Okay.
You know the weird glottal noises that Kristen Stewart made in Twilight? Everyone always makes fun of her, like weird, gulps and
Okay.
things like that with her head jerking.
Right.
She does that a little bit in this, but that's not the point I'm trying to make. If that bothered you, you are going to hate this movie because the Saul character has difficulty speaking and breathing at times, and Viggo Mortensen spends a huge chunk of this movie either clearing his throat or coughing or just kind of talking like this, and it is so distracting in the first half an hour, and by like the 1 hour mark I was like, just drop that, stop it, it's driving me crazy.
Okay.
I really wanted to like this movie more than I did.
Uh-oh. Well, it sounds like, and I'm no expert, but it sounds like you might be leading me into
I am
the grade.
ready for your holiday grading.
Okay. All right. I got the report card up on the screen. What are you going to nail this one with?
I'm going to give it a C, and that's mostly because of the visuals, and the acting was solid throughout.
Okay.
Pretty much. I mean, there's maybe one or two things that were a little annoying, but I think everyone did their characters well. There are some scenes where people are just reacting to things that they're seeing that I like, and even Kristen Stewart has one of them where she just looks completely appalled while someone else is completely enraptured by what's going on. And the way that was shot was done so well. The gore visuals all look good. It's just like I said, after a while it started to feel played out. As far as the story concepts and even the some of the characterization, just completely fell flat for me.
All right. Well, thank you very much for that review. I think I'm going to be skipping that one. I don't like that body modification stuff.
Yeah, I would definitely skip that one then.
Yeah, I think I saw one that the Soska sisters did that had a lot of body modification. I was like, yeah, I'm out. I think it starred the woman from Ginger Snaps. Oh, this is gonna
I know
me.
which one you mean. Yep.
Yeah, I can't remember it though. All right, Rich, it is your turn. Your turn in front of everybody. What movie are you going to be reviewing? Why did that happen? That's interesting. That wasn't supposed to happen. Let's try that again. There we go. Rich, what movie are you reviewing?
Thought we were going to have to start all over for a second. Ooh.
No, not yet. Go ahead, Rich.
I'm reviewing a movie called X. And before I go on with this review, Tim, since the audience probably doesn't know, I'm driving right now, and I realize I don't have a charger, and I'm almost out of battery, so I'm going to probably leave this call and leave you guys be after I'm done with my review.
Okay.
So, anyway, so X. Basically just heard a little bit about it prior to it being free on whatever streaming service it was free on, so I decided to watch it.
Okay.
I will start out by saying that a lot of people will be turned off by two things before they even attempt watching it. And one is the studio is A24, and we know that with some people that's a no-go studio. And the other, it's directed by Ty West, who I like A24, but I'm not a big Ty West fan, but I still gave it a shot.
Okay.
So, on to it was kind of a period piece. It was set in the 70s in rural Texas, so definitely could tell that they were going for kind of a Texas Chainsaw Massacre vibe with some just how things looked and how the characters were dressed. So we start out with all of them traveling together in a vehicle. Underway, we find out to make a film. Stop at the convenience store, do the normal, that kind of stuff, just like all these Texas horror films seem to do. Nothing crazy goes down there, though, like unlike the other movies like Texas Chainsaw Massacre and whatnot.
Right.
But we find out that they are filming a porn film, and that's where the title X comes from, I guess. The characters, and there's no real reason for me to name any of the actors or actresses' names because you've never heard of them. Maybe someday, we'll look back and say that's where they got started. But they all kind of have their role. The director, he's the well, actually, he's more the producer. He's the cocky, cool dude. The director, well, they cross roles. He's director and cameraman. He's kind of the film purist, and this porn film is going to be the next great piece of art. The girls that are going to be in the porn film are very attractive, and we do get to see some nudity. So
Hooray!
I mean, that got them one letter grade right there.
Okay.
And then the main actor, main porn actor, he's your cool stud who apparently, according to the women, is very hung and very good at what he does, as you'll find out when you watch this film. So anyway, so they establish it's a porn film, and we get to know these characters. Again, they all kind of fit generic roles. And they arrive at this farmhouse, kind of, that's what I really thought Texas Chainsaw Massacre. They pull in, and turns out that they've rented a house on this land so that they could be secluded. And the porn name, by the way, that they're filming is The Farmer's Daughter. And the setting definitely does have a kind of a farm look to it. We meet the owner of the house, older man, very old. And immediately there's some confrontation, and you can just tell he's kind of not a very nice person. And he gives them a little pre-warning, basically, to not disturb his wife. This is where, if you start talking too much, you start giving away bits of the film. But the long and short of it is, they go to the house, start filming the pornography, take advantage of being in these people's land and the fact that they're older, and start using the barn and things of that nature, places they shouldn't be, which gets absorbed by both the husband and wife eventually. And we start to find out why he didn't want her disturbed. And basically characters start meeting their demise.
Okay.
And eventually we get to the end where, somebody survives.
Now,
I can't tell you if it's the porn actresses or the owners of the land or who, but somebody does survive. So there you go.
Now, A24, usually the knock on them, and I'm certainly one of them that knocks on them, is they get all pretentious and sometimes to the point where it's preachy, or it's not fun anymore, or they just go completely bizarro land, and you're like, okay, are you going to come back to the story at all? Does this fall into those foibles?
No, I personally feel like this is probably their best entry into horror, in the respect of them not doing those things that seem to alienate some people. It's just they stay on point with the story. It doesn't get wacky or goofy or unbelievable. Everything's very believable. And it just, like I said, it stays on point. So it's not like any other A24 film that I recall watching, and it was very refreshing. I like A24 films, but sometimes they make me think too much too, and I don't like to think, as we know.
I honestly sat down to watch Bodies, 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 and the A24 came across the screen, and I stopped it and I walked away because I hated that Here, There, Everywhere movie so much, and Heredity. I was like, yeah, I'm not doing this to myself this time. So you're saying this one might be worth me giving a shot, huh?
My personal opinion, if you're a person who likes horror films, and this one's not going to change your life or be in your free rotation list, but if this doesn't cause you to sit there and say, well, I'm going to have to give A24 more of a chance in the future, then I don't think you're being open-minded with your film watching.
Right.
Well, Lord knows that's true anyway. But All right. Well, are you ready for grade?
Yeah,
Okay, let me get that set up. And what are you going to grade this thing?
I would give it a B.
A B. All right.
So we're getting
It would have
better.
been it would have been a B minus, but then they gave me boobies, and it got a solid B.
Okay, well, fantastic. And we'll do that. And all right, well, thank you, Rich. We wish you well. I know you have to jump off here, and I'm gonna take
I hope it reminds you why you shouldn't have me on the show.
there are a lot of things that remind me of that, but thank you for reminding me once again. And
Thank you for having me.
all right,
Good
thanks
night,
so much. Okay, that
Bye.
brings me to my film, and I am going to be talking about the movie Barbarian, which has been getting a lot of talk. A lot of people have been talking about this film, and I think rightfully so. I'll lead things off that way. Let's do the basics of the story. A young woman travels to Detroit, which, as you know, Mike, that's never a good idea.
Hey,
Oh,
now.
I'm sorry.
Some good things came from Detroit. I'm not one of them, but
Okay. Well, a young woman travels to Detroit for a job interview. She wants to be like a assistant to a director of documentaries. And she arrives at her Airbnb, and it's a dark and stormy night. And she goes to the front door, and that thing you're always scared of happens. She finds out that the Airbnb was double booked. And there's a young man there, and her unexpected roommate, this male interloper, gives off a number of strange vibes. There's just a lot of them that you go, I don't know about this guy. He's that same clown that terrified us in It a few years back. So it is the same actor that played Pennywise. So you go through that for about 30 minutes of them just having this discussion, and you're like, what is this building toward? And it grows and it grows, this story, and you're thinking, okay, this guy's a psychopath, something's gonna happen between these two. Then I think she leaves for her job interview. When she comes back, he's not there, and she needs a roll of toilet paper, and it's at the bottom of the stairs. So she goes down, and the door closes on her, and she's locked in the basement. And she doesn't have her phone. She doesn't have, and she's just kind of stuck down there. She eventually gets out because the guy comes back. And she had discovered some things down there, and she says, there's some creepy stuff here. I'm going to get out of here. And he goes, well, let me look. So he goes down to look, and you don't really see him anymore. And I'm going to kind of hold off giving you additional information about that storyline because it starts going down some roads in a hurry. So like I would say the first 20, 30 minutes, the whole time, it's kind of like that story you always get about Alfred Hitchcock talking about suspense, where they showed a guy put a bomb underneath the table, and these guys are just talking about baseball, and you're like, get out of there, there's a bomb ready to go off. It's kind of like that without the bomb. You don't really know, you know something is wrong. There's a vibe, but you don't know what exactly is wrong. You don't know, maybe it's the young woman is wrong. She seems a little weird. So there's a lot of stuff, but it is pretty solidly behind the young woman. Anyway, this movie reminded me structurally of a great old movie called Sleuth. I don't know if you know that movie.
Yes.
But that movie turns the tables on the audience like, what, 3-4 times, where you're like,
Yeah.
well, the movie's going this direction, and then, oh, yeah, we're going over here. And that happens a couple of times in here. Now, one of the things I like is how slowly they built where they were. Because at first you're just inside the Airbnb, and it looks like a normal house. You're not really worried. But there's a couple comments that the young man makes that you go, oh, maybe this isn't a great place. Because he's talking about, you came in the dark. It's kind of a sketchy neighborhood. I don't know if you had a chance to look around, but it's pretty bad. Well, by the time it's daytime and she looks out the window, yeah, it's freaking horrible. It looks like Hell Knight came through there and they never bothered cleaning up. I mean, it's burnt out shells of buildings. It's a horrible slum. Then they do some time traveling in here where all of a sudden you're back in the 80s and you get to see Richard Brake. It has a section in the film. And we also see that the owner of the Airbnb is Justin Long, who I think is a really underrated actor. I loved him in a couple of different things that he's been in, particularly on television. But he was also in Jeepers Creepers. Yeah. Now, when I found out he was in this film, I'm like, he does being horrified better than almost anyone. I would put him up there with the little boy in Poltergeist. I mean, when that little boy is being attacked by the tree and the clown doll, you really feel sorry for him. That kid really draws you in. Justin Long has that ability where you just kind of, you kind of think, oh, this warm, cuddly guy, I want to help him out. Now, here's what's weird. They decided to hire Justin Long for that reason. I'm solidly sure that the reason they got him is because he is somebody that people just like, and he gives off, I hate the term, but gravitas or charisma, that you just want to like him. But his character is almost like a Weinstein type character. He's a Hollywood director or producer. I think he was a director. And he had inappropriate relations with his leading lady. And that's what kicks off his story as to why he goes to the Airbnb. And, at first you're kind of like, because it's Justin Long, you're like, oh, this woman must have made all this stuff up. And just like in the first sequence in the movie where it's the young woman kind of feeling out, what is this other guy that got double booked in the Airbnb? What is he all about? The sequences with Justin Long, you're kind of like, okay, is he the nice guy he seems like he is? Or is there something darker there? And really, they have to start beating you over the head because Justin Long has so much charm. They really have to beat you over the head before you start realizing, maybe he's not such a great guy. Now, here's what I'm going to tell you. This movie, it starts off very slow, and I know the way that I described it, it kind of sounds like, oh, it sounds like a yawn fest. But when it kind of, there's this, I will tell you, the first 10 minutes, you are like wanting to throw stuff at the screen and say, can we get moving here? Can something happen? But once they start descending the stairs, and it's almost like a subliminal or a symbolic thing. They go down the stairs, and that's when things start to go bad. Once that starts to happen, the pace of the film speeds up monumentally. Like in the and I noticed this even while I was watching it. In that first sequence, a lot of long takes, pauses between the lines. It was very, very drawn out. once they start going down the stairs, that pace starts speeding up and things start occurring and the pressure starts going. And by the time you get to the Justin Long thing, things are already kind of clicking along. And now you're kind of waiting for him to get caught up to where the other storyline was and get him in that basement. That's all. You're like, get in the basement. Justin, go in the basement. We want to find out what's going on in the basement. Let's get him in the basement. And you don't know, and I'm not going to tell you clearly, when the Justin Long thing happens. Is this before the sequence we saw at the beginning of the movie? Is it after? Is it during? You don't know, and I'm not going to tell you, because that's part of the fun of, and I don't want to spoil the movie, but I want to tell you enough that you're interested in this film, because I honestly think, Richard just said moments ago, well, this movie X, it might be one of those movies you watch it once and that's probably it. You're not going to put this on a revisit list or watch it on a regular basis. I can see this movie getting revisited by me. I think it was pretty darn good. It is available all over the place by now. It's not like free available with Prime Video, but you can dial it up for relatively inexpensive. The price did go down quite a bit after a little thing called Halloween, and they figured, oh, okay, now we'll let everybody see this for a reasonable price. It is a good little scary flick. This is a movie that is going to affect people when they see it. So I think it's worthy of your time, and that's why I'm going to grade it an A-.
Wow.
I'm giving it an A-. I thought they did an exceptional job. I think they should be commended on the quality of this film, because it really is fun. The acting is good. The story is good. The pacing, like I say, and that's what I'm really interested in. When I watch this movie a second time and I know where it's going, is that first scene going to drive me even more crazy? Is it going to speed up the velocity of that sequence? How is that all going to work together? That's going to be interesting. So I can't wait. I do recommend this movie strongly. I will tell you, if you're a little wimp and you're not into horror movies, this is not your one. It's got a fair amount. I don't know that it's got a lot of gore, but it's got some very disturbing imagery, and it is extremely intense. I would say this is a movie where I literally had to change my t-shirt afterwards because I was sweating.
Nice.
Watching those main characters. That's what you want from a horror film. You don't necessarily need to be scared, but you want to feel like you're engaged with it. You want to feel for those characters. At no point did I think a character was going to jump out of the screen and start stabbing me. That's not what I'm worried about. But I really went along for the ride. I enjoyed it a great deal, and I hope other people go out and check this one out. I think this is a relatively young filmmaker that actually was one of the main guys behind The Whitest Boys You Know.
Oh, really?
The comedy troupe.
Yeah.
And it seems like these days you got to get a comedian to do horror films in Hollywood these days. But I highly recommend it. I think people should give it a shot and try it out very soon. Barbarian 2022, available on most streaming platforms. So give it a shot. All right.
Intriguing.
Well,
I have to say, when you said that it was happening in Detroit, and the moment you said clown, I immediately thought there was going to be an Insane Clown Posse concert outside her window or something.
There is remarkably little that happens outside this house. Well, I'm not going to say anymore. It's a movie you should check out, and I really do think you'll appreciate it. Even though it's been made relatively recently. We know that that's something against your brain. Okay, it is time to do the hopeless hawking of what's going on out there. Otherworldlyculture.com continues to go. This is the last dead-on movie reviews of this season. And the final... I know. But we'll be coming back next season whenever we figure out when that's going to be. Let's see. I got to hit this one and this one. You can check out Michael at thedragonsroost.net. And you have anything new there that we want to tell people about?
Actually, we're in the last couple days of our Kickstarter for the upcoming anthology. So get in there by Friday. You have some great merch that you can get. Books, ebooks, t-shirts, all kinds of good stuff. And the book itself is called Lolcraft, a compendium of eldritch horror. We've got almost 100,000 words of great short fiction, 33 short stories, and it will be out in a couple of weeks.
Fantastic. And let's see if I hit that one. There we go. And want to remind everybody that coming up on Thursday, we have our final inning of Dead on the Bases. Jeff and I are literally neck to neck going into the last inning, so it's actually going to be interesting to see who wins this season on Dead on the Bases. We will be reviewing the films Alien and The Natural. To me, it sounds like a one-sided fight, but we'll see how that all goes down coming up Thursday on Dead on the Bases. And want to put up the clock there, of course, 186 days until Horror Realm, and Rich isn't on the line, so I'm going to do my best here. There's a lot of great guests coming out this year to the event coming up in March of 2023, including Darcy DeMoss and David Thornton from the Terrifier films, awesome Scream Queen Linnea Quigley, Richard Macer from The Thing, Robert Kurtzman, makeup artist, Tom Fridley from and Brittany Mirabile. She's from one of the Purges. C.J. Graham, one of the past Jasons, and Damien Leone. He's the director of Terrifier. So a lot of great guests that have been named already coming out to Horror Realm in Pittsburgh, March 3rd through the 5th of 2023. Hotel rooms are actually kind of reasonably priced, which isn't always the case when you go to conventions. So give it a chance. If you haven't gone to conventions before, it is a good one to get started with. It's more of a family type of show, even though it would have to be a pretty sick family.
I don't know. There were these weird guys in the outside hallway that I saw there.
Hey, we might get inside we might get inside this time. We're gonna try sneaking in. So we're gonna give that a shot. It's gonna be a lot of fun, and I hope that everybody can join us out there. Okay, let's see. I have this whole closing spiel I gotta read too. So anyway, want to thank everybody. You can check us out on social media. We're on Twitter. We're on Facebook. We have the upcoming Dead on the Bases coming up on Thursday. In the off season, there are going to be some reviews and things that'll come up on a sporadic basis, just so that you keep checking out the website as we're in the off season, and then we'll announce when the next season comes. I should also mention that all of our podcasts recently made it over to Spotify. We're now on Spotify, so if that is your podcatcher of choice, you can now use that app to listen to all of our programs. We have one feed that has all the shows that we do. We have a separate feed for Dead On Movie Reviews, Dead On the Bases, Horror Realm Radio, all that stuff. So give it a try. I think you'll have a great time with it. And then you don't have to look at us when it's an audio podcast. That's like a bonus. All right. I want to thank everybody one more time while I kind of serendipitously click buttons over here. I want to remind you to have a fun and safe holiday season. Hope you have a great Thanksgiving. And thanks to you, Michael, for joining us on so many of the shows this season.
Thanks for having me. It's always a great time. Despite how the movie ends up.
Well, it's great getting to know you better, and this has been a lot of fun this season, so we hope you stick around for many more. All right, so when you aim at horror, make sure your aim is dead on. See you next time. Otherworldlyculture.com.